For most folks today, stores like these are where they get their food, their medicines, and all of their tools and supplies. But it wasn't that long ago when most people, Native Americans, pioneers, people all over the world, regarded rich river bottom lands like this to be the source of everything. Here, a knowledgeable person could find food, medicine, even tools for everyday life. Unfortunately, modern man believes that we are no longer dependent upon nature. We believe we have conquered nature, and that areas such as this are nothing more than non-performing real estate. In fact, if you look around and you see all the trash, you can see that a lot of people regard this as a dumping ground, a place to build golf courses, a place where developers salivate thinking about all the condos that they can build. Well, today we're going to explore some of the hidden value of places like this. And it is our hope that by drawing attention to these wetlands, people will do whatever it takes to preserve such sites in perpetuity. Because by preserving such sites, we're not just protecting history, we are preserving life itself. Grasses are found all over the world. They are like the hair of the earth. Now, when most people think of grasses, they think of their lawns. But did you know that there are also tall, cultivated grasses like wheat, oat, rice, barley? There are also tall, wild grasses like this one here. Now, Native Americans would have used the leaves for food. The young ones are best. They would have also taken the seeds and ground them up and used the seeds for cereal, for bread, for soup. Now, just so you know, there are no poisonous grasses, but you have to make sure that the seeds are fully mature, that there's no mold or fungus on the seeds, and that no one has sprayed it with an herbicide, of course. Now, even if you do not eat the grass seeds, grasses should be protected because the roots of the grass protect the soil from erosion. Here's an interesting plant. When most people see this, they think bird nest. Look at the way the flower has rolled itself into a bird nest. This is a wild carrot. Now, the wild carrots are domesticated carrots gone wild, and you find them all around the country, wet areas like this, but also in fields and in old farmlands. The thing to keep in mind with the wild carrot is that it looks very much like the poison hemlock. Now, there are a few ways that you can differentiate them. One is that this doesn't have that bad odor that the poison hemlock has. Also, the poison hemlock has these red blotches along the lower stalk. Carrot doesn't have that. And if you notice really carefully, the carrot has fine hairs covering it that you do not see on the wild hemlock. Also, let's take a look at the flower. This is a beautiful umbel of flowers, and the carrot typically has a purple flower right in the middle. Okay, now, what are the uses of the wild carrot? People sometimes take the seeds and use it as a seasoning like a caraway seed, but when you think of carrot, you primarily think of the root. So let's take a look at that root. Look at this stout little root. Probably the soil was very hard when it started growing because normally the carrot root is going to look like a regular carrot. It's going to be white like this, no carotene, and the part that you're going to eat is the skin. If you take your fingernail and scratch it a bit, you can smell it's an obvious carrot. And what you would do now is peel off all the tender part, put it in a salad, or put it in a stew. Okay, so maybe I'll use this later for lunch. Hey, look, we have celery here. Now, this is the same celery that people buy in the store, except this one is a wild variety. It's not particularly uncommon to find it in wet areas like this all around the country. You can smell it, and you have that very typical celery odor. And you know, most people looking at this would recognize celery. One of the differences is that the celery you buy in the store has those fluted stems that are kind of scalloped, whereas this one is somewhat round. Another difference is that you can eat the you can eat the cultivated celery raw, whereas this really ought to be cooked. It's a little bit on the bitter side. And we could put a little bit in a cooked stew or a soup or a vegetable dish, but use it sparingly in salads. Can you smell that? It smells really good, sweet. It's spearmint. The mints are very commonly found along streams like this, all throughout the world, as a matter of fact. They make delicious teas. People use them in cooking, of course, for drinks, for dessert items. In Mexico, the spearmint is known as yerba buena. People make it into a tea for stomach pains and flus and things like that. Again, to recognize the mint, you've got the square stem, the opposite leaves, the very wrinkly type surface on the leaf, and the flowers that form in these whorls. So it's a delicious tea. Here we have a dandelion, and this is the same dandelion that's found all over the country in vacant lots and in fields, in wet areas like this. Now, the dandelion has been used as a food for centuries. It's also a medicinal plant. Because it has so many vitamins and minerals, it's often referred to as poor man's ginseng. How did it get its name? If you look at the teeth on the leaf, it resembles a lion's tooth, according to some people, and one of the original words means tooth of the lion, diente de león. Now, dandelion is used in salads when it's very young and not too bitter. It can also be cooked like a spinach. And the root has some interesting uses also. This root can be boiled when it's young and eaten like parsnips. I like it actually when it's dried, ground, and then roasted and percolated like you would coffee, and you make a really healthful coffee substitute from this.